Saturday, October the 14th, 2017, to you. Too often, what we may say is not the important thing, but how. This is true in Romance and international diplomacy too. Yesterday, world public opinion watched how President Donald J. Trump announced US new strategy towards Iran. Otherwise, that presidential statement would have been quite reasonable, but Mr. Trump is Mr. Trump. In 2015, Iran, the European Union, and the 5 permanent members at the UN Security Council, the United States amongst them, signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, which agrees to lift sanctions against Iran. In return, Tehran would confine its nuclear activities to civil purposes only. Mr. Trump did not announce that the US would pull out of JCPOA. All of us must be clear on that. What he really announced was that he would not certificate that Iran is adhering to the JCPOA. Pursuant to the US-Iranian Nuclear Agreement Review Act, INARA, the president must certify Iran's compliance to Congress. If he does not, as it shall be the case, it is up to Congress to decide whether Washington will reimpose sanctions on Tehran or abide by the treaty. In short, it is a domestic matter which, unfairly enough, has ramifications worldwide. Personally, I may agree with Mr. Trump that INARA should be amended. General Herbert McMaster said that some trigger points ought to be included in the new legislation, considering that some temporary restrictions will begin to expire, the so-called sunset provisions. However, the JCPOA is not a bilateral agreement, so any further legislation needs to be discussed with the other signatories. And even worse, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, officially stated that Tehran is complying with the deal. What would Washington be willing to offer Iran in exchange of renegotiating? There are 3 human groups whose credibility got seriously compromised after Mr. Trump's announcement. First and foremost, we must put Iranian reformists on top of the list. We Westerners are quick to forget, but it was President Mr. Hassan Rouhani who convinced Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, that negotiating with the West was not a bad idea. Now, considering also that Ayatollah Khamenei's health is ailing, hardliners have another reason to attack moderates. Secondly, we must include US-European allies, namely Britain, France and Germany. They greatly benefited from JCPOA in terms of trade and diplomacy, so America's new stance leaves them in an uncomfortable position. Surely they will not withdraw that agreement. Finally, we must consider US Congress, especially the GOP Congresspeople veteran in foreign policy. They are the ones who will decide whether or not the US is still a reliable partner. Gosh, I hope Kim Jong-un read just the sports pages yesterday. The world is still on.